Kenneth Moss was found deceased in a rural Cass County, Indiana field in 1964 beneath the tyre of his car. What initially appeared to be a tragic accident quickly turned to foul play when it was discovered that Kenneth had mud forcibly pushed down his throat and nose to the point of asphyxiation. On November the 29th, 1964, around 9:30 am, a Cass County, Indiana farmer named William Dixon noticed a car parked in his neighbour's field. The 1959 Chevrolet station wagon sat about 100 yards east of US 35, just off a rural farming road near a small patch of trees. As William approached the muddy station wagon, he noticed a pair of men's legs protruding from underneath of the vehicle's right rear wheel. William began to call out, believing the person was merely working on their car. However, as he neared, he quickly realised that the young man beneath the car was deceased. William went to the neighbour's house and summoned for police. Investigators arrived on scene, initially believing that they were dealing with a tragic accident. A wallet found inside of the vehicle identified the young man as a 22-year-old Kenneth Moss, a resident of Kokomo, Indiana. A neighbour and later Kenneth's brother confirmed his identity. The wallet also contained a small sum of cash. Kenneth was found laying face up on the ground, his face covered by a large amount of mud. The right rear wheel of his station wagon sat on top of his chest. The tyre's valve cap had been removed and the tyre was flat. A small camp shovel that would later be confirmed to belong to Kenneth was found laying next to his body. A hole long and wide enough for Kenneth to lay in had been dug using the shovel, roughly 18 inches deep. Several other small holes, as well as scuff marks, were found next to the car. Inside of the vehicle, investigators found a brown mud-covered jacket, a flashlight, several flares, an unused jack and spare tyre, 3 mud-covered boards, a small chain, and Kenneth's wallet. The car was in neutral. The keys were in the off position in the ignition. A small amount of blood was discovered in the rear fender above Kenneth's body, both on top and underneath of chunks of mud that clung to the vehicle. Kenneth was dressed in green overalls, a green military fatigue hat, army boots. A brown wristwatch he wore had stopped at 5:17 am. Investigators on scene noted that the entire situation appeared to be almost staged. A coroner's report would confirm their suspicions. Kenneth's cause of death proved to be the most brutal one. Mud had been forced down his nose and throat to the point he was asphyxiated. The coroner was quoted as saying, "I've never seen anything like it. There was mud forced all the way down this young man's esophagus and larynx. No person could do that to themselves." End quote. Kenneth sustained no other injuries that could have caused his death. However, a bizarre series of fresh, superficial cuts were discovered on his forehead. They were described as 9 uniformly spaced cuts, about 3/4 of an inch long, running parallel about an inch above his eyebrows. Investigators theorised cuts may have been caused by a small chain. However, it was never ultimately determined what caused them. It was also determined that Kenneth was dead before the car's tyre was rolled onto his chest. The tyre was taken by police and it was learned that it had sustained no damage and had been properly deflated. Kenneth was last seen at roughly 6 PM at a nearby gas station filling up his gas. A neighbour at the trailer park confirmed seeing Kenneth arrive home a little after 6, but said he didn't know what time he left again, or if he was alone. Kenneth's small mobile home at Forest Ridge Trailer Court, where he lived alone, was searched for clues, but ultimately turned up no leads. Police turned to Kenneth's small group of friends and family for help. However, Kenneth had no girlfriend and very few close friends. He was described as a quiet but friendly guy who worked hard at his factory job in Kokomo and loved to hunt and fish. He was also a member of the National Guard. Police questioned many people. However, they never discovered any motive for Kenneth's murder. With the money found in his wallet, robbery was immediately ruled out, and police could find no evidence that Kenneth had any enemies. 56 years later, his murder remains unsolved. In 1971, the bodies of 84-year-old Henry House and his neighbour, 19-year-old Margie Shepherd, was found in the basement of Henry Heckhart's inn home. The pair had been bludgeoned with a hammer and shot multiple times while celebrating Henry's birthday. On the evening of March the 6th, 1971, 84-year-old Henry House phoned his neighbour, 19-year-old mother of two, Margie Shepherd, to ask her to come over. Margie regularly helped out for Henry and frequently ran errands for the elderly widower. When Sunday morning came and Margie hadn't returned home, her concerned parents called the police. Police arrived at Henry's Elkhart, Indiana home around 10:30 a.m. After knocking loudly and receiving no answer, police entered the two-storey home located on Indiana Avenue to search for Henry and Margie. As police descended the stairs leading to the basement, they made a grim discovery in the furnace room. Henry was found dead at the foot of the stairs in a seated position against the wall. Margie, just a few feet away, laying face down in a pool of blood. Henry's face and head had been beaten nearly beyond recognition with a claw hammer that was found nearby. He had also been shot in the head and chest multiple times. Margie had also been severely beaten and was shot 5 times in the head and chest. The coroner estimated that both Henry and Margie were killed sometime between the hours of 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. Police discovered a .25 caliber shell casings in the furnace room that led them to believe that the pair was shot with Henry's own revolver that was missing from the home. Money from Henry's wallet was missing as well. Several sets of footprints were discovered in the snow. However, it was never confirmed that they belonged to the killer or killers. Neighbours told police they had not seen anyone suspicious in the area and could not think of a reason why anyone would want to hurt the pair. Police discovered remnants of a small birthday celebration, most likely set up by Margie to celebrate Henry's birthday. Henry's birthday was on March the 6th, the evening he had called Margie. Robbery was originally believed to have been the motive, but due to the viciousness of the attacks, police theorised that the killer's motive may have been more personal, or perhaps the actions of a drug addict. They also theorised that when Henry called Margie that evening, he may have been forced to do so. After Margie's death, her son, 3-year-old Kelly, and her daughter Kimberly were raised by Margie's parents. Sadly, Kelly passed away at the age of 43 in 2012. When Candy Morris vanished from a Michigan City, Indiana in 2012, her husband David began dating a member of the search party less than 3 weeks later. Bizarrely, on the same exact day, almost a year later, not only were Candy's remains found, but David's girlfriend died in her sleep. 29-year-old Michigan City resident and mother of 3, Candy Brown Morris, was reported missing by her husband, 45-year-old David Morris, in August 2012. David claimed he had last seen Candy on the 7th of August. However, it was learned Candy was last alive on the 25th, when she dropped a friend named Tyrone Harris off at his home around 1 a.m. Candy's wallet was found at Riley's Bar and Grill, and a car was found at 3 Sheets Bar, both located in Michigan City, Indiana. A check of her cell phone records indicated she last sent a text near the corner of County Lane Road and Chandler Road in Pines, Indiana. According to the police, the text was sent to a friend and was nothing out of the ordinary. Volunteers scoured the area for Candy multiple times, however, were unsuccessful at locating her. It was during one of those searches that David met a 30-year-old woman named Anna Reeves. Less than a month after his wife had disappeared, the two began a public, romantic relationship. As the temperatures began to drop, the search was called off and Candy remained listed as a missing person. Then, in May of the following year, Candy's remains were discovered in a wooded area near the town of Pines, Indiana, less than a quarter mile from where she sent her last text. Due to the extended period that her remains were exposed to the elements, investigators were unable to determine her cause of death. In a bizarre coincidence, the same day Candy's remains were discovered, David's girlfriend Anna died suddenly in her sleep. David had previous charges of domestic abuse against Anna. However, her cause of death was ruled accidental due to the acute mixed drug intoxication or overdose. David was never charged in Candy's murder and denies knowing what happened to her. However, rumours swirled of his possible involvement. Suspicions were deepened further after David was found guilty of violently murdering a used car lot owner named Horacio Ortega in 2016. The small used car dealership, Easy Drive Auto in Michigan City, Indiana, was co-owned by 65-year-old Horacio Ortega and a man named Sergio Serrano. Horacio had moved to the US from Mexico 3 years prior in the hopes of being better able to provide for his family back in Mexico. He worked at his dealership 7 days a week, and nearly all of the money he made, he sent back home. Sergio and Horacio became very close during their time working together. However, when business began to suffer and the lot started losing money, Sergio decided to call it quits and sell his half of the business to Horacio. Despite their falling out as business partners, the pair remained close friends. So in April, Sergio became alarmed when Horacio hadn't called or texted him in days. On April 23rd, Sergio decided to pay a visit to his old friend and business partner. He arrived at the dealership to find the office closed and locked. After knocking for a minute on the door and getting no response, Sergio used his old key to unlock the door. Sergio walked to the back room of the dealership where he saw Horacio lying on the floor, covered by a sheet. Sergio immediately called 911. Investigators arrived and discovered that Horacio had been the victim of a savage murder. He had been stabbed multiple times in the throat and chest. An autopsy placed his time of death on April the 19th. A trail of blood leading from Horacio's body to another room led police to conclude that he had been killed in a separate room of the dealership and then dragged to where his body was found. A broken window was believed to have been the killer's entry point. The office was in complete disarray and Horacio's wallet and keys were missing. Sergio tells police that the car that Horacio normally drove, a white Hyundai, was missing. Upon further inspection, it was learned that another car, a green Subaru, was also missing from the lot. Investigators couldn't find any surveillance cameras on Horacio's lot. However, a detective noticed a security camera mounted on the business next door that faced them. The detective scoured the surveillance footage to discover that on the day of his murder, Horacio could be seen on the video talking to a heavy-set black man. After a short discussion, both the man and Horacio enter a green Subaru, the same one that was now missing from the lot, and leave. 6 minutes later, the pair return to the lot. Horacio goes inside the office, and the man leaves on foot. However, an hour later, the man returns. Only this time, he does not directly approach the lot. Instead, he stays hidden across the street and merely watches for a bit before going around the side of the building and out of the camera's view. Police believe this person may be the killer. However, the footage is grainy and they are unable to ID the suspect. The following day, the man is once again seen on grainy surveillance driving away in Horacio's white car. He's seen again on the 23rd, taking the green Subaru only minutes before Sergio had arrived to find Horacio's body. The police turn to the public for help, and after posting the story on Facebook, a witness comes forward. A woman named Kristen told investigators that on April the 21st, 2 days after Horacio's murder, she had seen a heavy-set black man exiting the dealer's shop office through the window and walk down the street. She had thought the incident was strange, but it wasn't until she saw the story that she made the connection. Footage from a law firm revealed a clear picture of the suspect. It was the same man seen previously on video on the day of Horacio's murder. After police received Horacio's bank statements, they saw that on the morning of his murder, he had visited a nearby gas station. Surveillance from the station shows that Horacio was not alone. The same man seen on the law firm surveillance can be seen chatting with Horacio in line. The two exit the gas station together and climb into Horacio's now missing Hyundai. A police officer recognises the man as David Morris. With his past convictions of theft, assault and domestic battery, not to mention the unsolved murder of his wife Candy, who was well known to police. Later that same day, Horatio's bank statement shows that a large purchase exceeding $400 was made later that evening at a grocery store, including the purchase of a vacuum. Police know that David used the cards several more times, once at a fast food restaurant, another time at a liquor store. A bolo was issued for David as well as the two missing vehicles. Meanwhile, an officer types the newly purchased vacuum cleaner's serial number into their database to find that it was sold to a pawn shop in Portage, Indiana, just 2 days after it was purchased. Surveillance footage from the pawn shop shows David and a friend arrive in the missing green Subaru with the vacuum. Using his friend's ID, he sells them the vac. Police believe they have everything they need to issue a warrant for David's arrest. They learn that David, who is still on probation for a previous crime, has a meeting with his probation officer at the courthouse. When David exits the courthouse, police arrest him. David is questioned by police and eventually admits he did steal the cars, but he claimed he last saw Horatio on the 19th when he bought him a pack of cigarettes at the gas station, and he let him test drive his car. He said when he broke into the dealership, he did not see Horatio dead or alive. During the interview, police recognised David is wearing the same clothes he had been seen wearing in all of the surveillance footage. They collected his clothing and sent it to the lab to be analysed. Blood found on David's pants, jacket and shoes was determined to be Horatio's. The stolen vehicles were later found abandoned around Michigan City, and upon searching them, the murder weapon, a serrated kitchen knife, was found hidden under the roof of the green Subaru. David was convicted of the murder of Horatio in December 2016 and sentenced to 82 years. However, the murder of his wife Candy goes unsolved. There is a Facebook site dedicated to finding answers in Candy's case that goes back to when she was a missing person that is quite the rabbit hole of rumours mixed with facts.